No winch for my Jeep Gladiator. But why not? Well, good morning, everybody. How are you today? Pretty good here, and that's right. There isn't going to be a winch for my Jeep Gladiator. And there's a few reasons why. You know, to be honest, when I got this bumper, and this is the knockoff, was a three-piece Rubicon bumper, I did plan to put a winch on the front, right? It has a winch plate behind, underneath. I'll show you that in a minute. And then the slot here in the front where if the license plate weren't there, you'd remove this panel and that's how you would have access to all the hooks and the line and all that stuff for the winch, right? But I'm not gonna do that. And let me tell you why. First of all, let me show you the plate. If you look right back here, this setup, which is ideal if you're someone that is looking for a winch, but it did come with a plate, a big honking plate back here that's bolted on through the bumper itself where the tow hooks are. So it is pretty sturdy and it'll hold about any winch as long as you can fit it in the space here that you would want to put in. And like I said, that was my plan initially. But after thinking about it for a while, I decided, you know, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because of, one, the weight. The plate itself is pretty darn heavy. And I kind of came to this conclusion when I switched this bumper from my Gobi Jeep Gladiator to my new brilliant white Jeep Gladiator. You know, I undid it, I lugged that thing off, and it's heavy, man. And I thought, why am I doing this? I'm adding all of this weight to the front end of the Jeep. I mean, the bumper itself is pretty darn heavy. This bumper, it's a steel bumper, and it is pretty heavy. But you add this plate to it, and it's even more weight, right? And I'm a big proponent of acceleration, right? Off the line speed, torque. And the more weight you add, like the bigger tires that I put on, for instance, right there, the less you're going to have for oomph off the line. And that's probably one of the most important things to me in any vehicle that I buy, right? So I figured, you know, if I delete that plate that's on the back, it doesn't have to be there, it is a separate piece, then I'm gonna save some weight that I've added to the truck. Now, you might be thinking, well, gee, how much weight can that really add? Well, it's probably about somewhere in the 15 to 20 pound range. It is a thick, heavy plate. So I think what I'm gonna do here ultimately, when I get motivated, is go ahead, pull the bumper, and get rid of that winch plate altogether, just to cut down on weight. Now, another reason, and we're still talking weight here, is the weight of the winch itself. You know, I don't know if you've ever lifted one or had any experience with one, but winches are heavy. Probably somewhere in the, depending on what you get, what size, all that good stuff, but somewhere in the 50 to 75, 85 pound range, maybe even a little bit more if you really go stout. So I'd be adding, you know, somewhere in the potentially 100 pound range to the front end of my truck. And there's two reasons I don't want to do that. One, I mentioned I don't want to cut down my acceleration. I don't want to haul around that extra weight. And two, I don't want to drop the front end. You know, it's already a little bit raked, I think. So I don't want to push it down even more, right? And any weight you add to the front, it's going to do that. Now, the last reason, well, there's actually a couple of more. The cost. You know, a winch is probably going to cost you somewhere between 150 and $400 or $500. Again, it depends on what you get. I could put that money towards other things, right? Other things that are going to be more useful to me. And that leads me to the last reason, and that is use. You know, while it's cool to have a winch on the front of your truck to drive around town, you know, check off a box on the man card, am I going to use a winch? You know, probably not. There's not a huge opportunity for trail riding or anything where I'm at. It can do some beach driving, but if you're out on a beach and you get stuck, what are you going to tie the other end of the winch to? There's nothing but sand. There's no trees out there. And if somebody else is around that can help pull you out, well, then you just use a strap, put it on one of the tow hooks, and pull yourself out. You still don't need a winch. So for me, it's not important enough, I guess, the aesthetics of it, because let's be honest here, for me it would be all aesthetic because it would never get used and probably would seize up over time. If I'm out at the beach and it's getting corroded with all that salt water and stuff, probably going to be pretty bad for the winch itself, and in the end, probably not going to work anyway. And that would happen at the time I would need it, right? As luck would have it, it would be at the point somewhere where you might actually need it and not have it work. So when should you get a winch, I guess? Well, one, if you don't care about the weight it adds, and I realize to some people that's probably trivial. Two, if you're off-roading in an area where you can tie the other end of that winch down and pull yourself out if you need to. And you'd only need to do that if there wasn't anybody else around, right? If you were alone. And maybe three, if you lived in a cold weather climate that you get a lot of snow. I mean, if you're driving somewhere and the conditions are really horrible, and let's face it, that's the funnest time to take out any four-wheel drive. I had done that several times back when I lived in Ohio with my other four-wheel drive trucks. But it's at that point that if you're out cruising around somewhere, maybe on a country road, and for some reason you go off-road, I don't know, you slipped, you slided, you got a little adventurous in your driving, maybe there'd be a tree or something close enough, maybe a fence post, I don't know, where you could actually hook the other end of that winch up and pull yourself out. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people don't realize. You know, yeah, a winch is great and they're awesome if you get stuck, as long as you have something to hook the other end to. Doesn't work too well, like I said, if you're out on a beach where there aren't trees growing in the middle of the sand, right? So anyway, that's why I am not going to go with a winch for my Jeep Gladiator. Again, they look cool and they certainly serve a function if you need it. But for me, I just don't see a reason to spend the money and add the extra weight to the front of the truck for something I'm really never going to use. Anyway, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Would you add one no matter what because it's just cool to have it on there? Or do you agree with me? There's no reason to put one on if you're not going to use it, and why add the extra weight to the front of the truck? I'd be curious to know. Also, real quick, if you're interested, I have two other channels. The first is Rob Motive, all about my winchless Toyota Tacoma. And the second is Rob Motive Civic, about my experiences with the Honda Civic Type R and the Honda Civic Sport Hatch. Check them out, and if you're interested, please consider subscribing. Don't forget to click that notification bell so that you don't miss out on any upcoming videos. And do me a favor, smash that subscribe button on the way out. Thanks for watching. Stay safe out there. Bye.